The world has just gotten a lot more virtual over the past few decades. Somebody says, I'm a Christian. Let me tell you about Jesus. People are going to have a preconceived notion of that. They used to go more to very specific, nuanced things like maybe the imam, the sheikh. Now they can Google, they can search.
How does somebody come to me asking for funding? I'm like, well, what are you going to do for the kingdom? They're like, oh, I'm a digital content creator for a mobilization organization. There are some real advantages to staying in the conversation. I think language is one of them. Hey, welcome back to the Global Sending Podcast powered by Reflejo. Right, we are a group of senders, and we're here to help other senders across the world navigate the ups and downs of multicultural partnerships. And we recognize that God is sending his people from everywhere to every single UPG on the planet with the hope of the gospel. And we want to help you guys go better together. So I'm Dave Wernz. I'm a missions pastor from North America, joined by my co-host, Dave Matthews, founder of Reflejo. So when we're thinking about where's the future, my mind goes into a digital. The whole world is getting digitized, and so it already is for the most part. My daughter's 6 years old. She's never known the world without digital content. Okay, right? She's already a kidfluencer, right? That we learned that word.
We learned that term today. That's right.
A kidfluencer. She's really not. She doesn't have a social media, but she could be. And so as we look at that, we have to grapple with the role that social media and digital content. Digital communication is going to play in missions and in sending. Where do you see it? Let's start from the field and work our way back. So where do you see digital media and social media playing a role in missions today? What's the field worker dealing with? Just so we as senders get an idea of like, well, if we're just jumping in, right, to that digital conversation, social media conversation, digital content.
Yeah.
What are we jumping into?
Yeah, so one of the things I think about is the world has just gotten a lot more virtual over the past few decades. And for the most part, if you have access to the internet, you have access to a lot of things in your own language. And I think people are starting to go to media or to the digital world for answers on anything. Right. More so than they used to go to like families, relatives, libraries, some other source. And so I think the first experience a missionary in the field is going to have is that people are going to be much more aware of who they are and their starting point, whether that is their culture, their background, their religion, their beliefs, based on what they see online.
And you think that's a global trend, not just a North American trend?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think you can go to a very remote place in the middle of Asia, and you will find people with smartphones.
Yeah.
And you just wonder how they get electricity, but the smartphone is there.
Yeah. Solar bank. Connected to, right, a generator, right, kerosene, something. But
that's right. We got to play Flappy Bird.
On Twitter. Yeah. Okay. Or X, however you call it.
So, I mean, that's the thing, right? You coming in as somebody from the West, somebody says, I'm a Christian. Let me tell you about Jesus and so on. People are going to have a preconceived notion of that. They used to go more to very specific, nuanced things like maybe the imam, the sheikh, the local community, and so on. Now they can Google, they can search, they can watch videos, they can so on.
They can watch somebody else's imam on YouTube.
Right. And so the question is, they're going to hear it digitally somehow. The question is, what are they going to find, right? Is it going to be somebody that's not a Christian telling them about Jesus, or is it going to be something that the church, capital C church, global church puts out that is information about the gospel?
So real quick, how would you say a forward-thinking mission agency is interacting with that digital reality right now on the field?
I would say the first wave was let's make sure that we put an accurate narrative. So back in the day, it was somebody's going to put other information out there. Let's put accurate information out there that is accessible about the gospel. And so I think about websites that we just have the gospel presentations in different languages, and people, if they Googled or search for the gospel in that language, would find it and would be able to find an accurate gospel presentation. Let's put Bible translations up there, Bible apps, Jesus film, other things. Let's make it available for the searchers looking for that thing. Give them access in their language from where they are. I think the next step has been, let us start pushing that to them. So it's been, let us do ads or marketing.
Like marketing campaigns.
Something to start looking at the kinds of people that we want to reach and try to get this gospel message in front of them.
Deliberately driving traffic.
Right, to deliver traffic to that. And I think a third step has been, let us create a funnel, a process. So I'm not just going to put a website in front of you for you to read. I'm going to ask a few follow-up questions to you and to 100,000 other people like you that are watching this thing to filter down to who are the most interested people that actually want to know more, because the people that actually know the language and can do follow-up are very, very limited. So we can only do follow-up with so many.
Yeah.
So let us whittle down to the people that we really need to follow up after, and let's find that spiritual openness, not by knocking on doors, but by knocking through digital posts.
So you're saying it went from a content heavy into a campaign, a traffic campaign, and now it's into a ministry process.
Yes, into a process.
All right.
And I think there's still innovation happening there of how do you empower then those people, sometimes with, sometimes without human interaction, to then become disciples themselves, to become disciple makers. And there's this whole space called media movements that tries to tackle this area.
So from a sending side, right, stepping into that seems like a pretty big leap from the old school, like hand out a tract or sit down and have tea.
Right.
How do you reconcile somebody who's just getting into ministry or thinking about getting into ministry, saying like, hey man, you got to get in, like you got to get up to speed with these digital trends. Is that a big jump for somebody coming from, let's say, like a Latin American context?
So yeah, what I think it's doing on the sending side is, yes, it is changing a little bit of who we look for. Like if somebody has the skill set of being in marketing and knowing how to do this kind of create a funnel and pipeline and so on, that suddenly becomes a very useful asset to build capacity into your organization for that. And that may be a person that could be somewhere in the world that is safer, reaching out somewhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
That is not as safe, right? It's like what radio ministry did before in a much more targeted way. Now, there is a caveat to that. To be able to know how to properly convey the gospel in the way that is clear and compelling, you still need contextualization. You need language and culture. And so you can't just say, well, I'm going to take somebody from Latin America, put him through a couple courses when it comes to social media marketing.
On how to do follow-up and
then have him pump out great stuff for somebody in Malaysia. Because they don't understand the culture, the context, what's attractive, and so on. And so you kind of got to pair up these seasoned missionaries or missional bridges, whether it's national leaders or missionaries that have been in a place for a while, to understand the language, understand the culture, can clearly convey the message, know the roadblocks, right? It's Jesus, the Son of God. How do you communicate that part?
Right.
When in the process should you communicate that part? What other things can you bring into this? How contextualize and what is appropriate contextualization in the C spectrum for your organization, for this culture, for that context? You got to bring all that nuance from still seasoned missions, and you got to pair it up with this new skill set of marketing, of creating funnels, of working with chatbots, of whatever else you might be in that space to be able to really create that potential for a funnel. And then you still need some capacity for follow-up in the back end for people that are really interested and committed and disciple them. Because you create all this excitement and then they finish the pipeline and there's nobody to talk to on the other end. They kind of feel abandoned halfway.
Well, they have to be, right? There's literally nobody there for them.
Yes, and we can hope for the best and the Holy Spirit will take care of it, but that's
not a strategy.
Right, that's hoping.
And that's not stewardship.
Yeah.
Right?
And
we're not stewarding those relationships well.
So we can look for this new category of people, knowing that it's not the silver bullet, but knowing that it could be a component that's significant to our strategy.
It's a skill set that you're going to have to fill somehow.
Yep. And that's new for the senders, keeping eyes open for that. The other part that's new on the sending side for communications is the way we go about identifying candidates can also dramatically change.
When you say candidates, you mean like potential workers?
Missionaries.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we used to go knock on churches' doors or go to the event and hand out flyers and pamphlets and so on. Now, the same thing we're doing for a funnel to share the gospel, we can do for a funnel to try to figure out who wants to become a missionary.
Yeah, you can fish on both sides.
Right. Yeah. So you could theoretically create content that's relevant to equipping people in missions and start talking about it, giving some of the basic skills, and see if people want to get trained or get some of the basic conversations done virtually, and then whittle down to, if you've gone through a certain amount of things, you're really committed, you're really interested, well, now let's go ahead and bring you to conversation with our agency as to whether you want to go.
These are really different. So I'm running my head now, or running a scenario in my head of a pitch. Like, how does somebody come to me asking for funding? I'm like, well, what are you going to do for the kingdom? They're like, oh, I'm a digital content creator for a mobilization organization.
Well, let me give you an example.
And you're like, what?
On a very different category. So a couple years ago, I think it's been a couple of years ago now, they had Comibam in Latin America, right?
Sure, yeah.
Biggest missions conference in Latin America, happens every 8 to 10 years. And you had all these people come to be part of this conference from Latinos. And you had all these organizations pay for a booth just to have a little bit of space where they can put their banners,
right,
and they can share their flyers.
Yep.
And they probably paid, I don't know, a few $100 to a few $1,000 for
table.
that. I don't know.
Something.
Well, and a percentage of the people came by and picked up their stuff, talked to their person and so on. I am guessing, we didn't do this, but I wish we would have thought about this before. For pennies on the dollar, I could have said to our communications team, hey, let's run an ad on a 2-block radius of that event during those dates and make sure that everybody's seeing an ad about Reflejo 20 times a day.
Right.
And it'll be cheaper
than
the table, and they'll be a lot more engaged just in that event.
Yep.
Now, we could empower a mobilizer saying, hey, I'm going to go to this city for this event next month. I could prep the ground by saying, I'm going to run ads for a week before for the people and the churches in that area. If you want to talk to a mobilizer about missions, here's an email, here's a number, here's something. I show up, there's meetings lined up. Now, again, these are things that could happen, that should be able to happen. And as we start innovating and we build capacity, because part of our limit is capacity to try all these different things, is it could reinvent mobilization as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I think we're going to start getting into the role that AI plays in some of these opportunities. I think that's part of where the conversation has to head. But before we get there, I think you got to ask, like, how do you vet people who have the skill set, right, but don't maybe have the spiritual maturity that we would have looked for in a mobilization role? Because that's a critical piece to this missions process.
Well, I don't think they need to be the same guy.
Okay.
I think the guy creating your content and your copy and your graphic design for that ad doesn't need to be the guy going to the church.
All right.
I think that's a benefit of having an organization.
Yep.
You have your content guy and you have your mobilizers, and they just coordinate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are just tools that you're using and handing to your skilled, vetted mobilizer and saying, go do your job better, faster.
Yeah, ideally. And that's part of what we're starting to dream up about communications is how do we continue to create a toolkit of resources to be able to empower our mobilizers, empower our trainers, empower others to do their job better. Now, where you build, like in global sending, we're going to create everything from scratch.
Right.
So we're starting by, let us just get some of the basics down on paper, right? And we've started developing a foundational series and some books and some things and so on. Then, people don't want to read. Can we make these more attractive on video courses or talks or something or other? And
maybe even a podcast.
Right. Great idea. Yeah. And little by little, you start building towards these sort of things that become more proactive. And I think in Latin America, we're moving in that direction. We're not there yet. I don't know if anybody that's actively, constantly executing some of these ideas. But I think we're moving in that direction quickly as we continue to build some things. And AI is definitely an accelerator in that direction, in the sense that creating content for training is a lot faster than it used to be.
So you see it as a positive. You see introduction of AI into these ministry roles as a win.
I see it as a tool. A hammer can build, or a hammer can, you can take a hammer to somebody's head, right? Sure. It can create a lot of damage, and it can build a lot faster than before.
Well, talk to me about some of the benefits first. So I'm just getting into some of these large language models. Like I'm just starting to use it for content creation for our prayer teams here, trying to generate some prompts and things like that. I know very little. Help me with, what are you seeing right now as an accelerator? What's a win? So
some of the things that are easy wins right now with where AI is at is it's good at things like translation.
Oh,
if you give it,
all right.
And by that I mean simple translation. Let's say I have a simple document. So this happened not too long ago. We had a board meeting in Reflejo, and we ended up with a set of policies that was like 30-something pages long, right? That
organizations
got approved or modified or something. Yeah. Some word got changed here and there. And now those are in English, because our board speaks English, but our staff should have access to them in their heart language.
Yep.
So
Spanish,
yes. So what we did very quickly was, hey, we have these. Here's the previous model. Here's how we chose to translate it before. Here's the new document. can you help us reflect the changes in an updated translation of these into Spanish? And what ended up happening is we saw something come out that was really, really good. We had to do maybe some minor tweaks, but 95% of the translation
That's what
was
AI
done by
is
AI.
for, right?
Yeah. And then we're able to, in a much faster way, have our team have access to policies internally that they wouldn't have had access to maybe for weeks or months otherwise. And it would have taken somebody's time and intentionality and effort to be able to really navigate and review those.
And we do see time as it's a refining tool. It's part of the process. Right? We're not trying to skip steps.
Yeah.
But just because we've always done it over time doesn't mean we have to. So you see an acceleration around translation. You see an acceleration around content creation. Some of the
with the nuance, right? You need to know what you're talking about before you go into it. So we used to start creating basic manuals. So one of the more recent ones that we did was how do you write a prayer letter? How do you write a good prayer letter?
Okay.
And so I could go to AI and say, hey, I am a missions coach wanting to go to missionaries and teach them how to write a prayer letter. Give me something, right? Give me an outline, give me text, start filling it up. And it will give me something great because it's pulling something from all over the internet of what it sees, and it just spits it back out at me. And I could tell it, put it in Spanish, and it's in Spanish. But what it's done is it's gone to all the internet to look at who's put something out about how to write a good prayer letter, and then giving me that input. And really, that is, for the most part, Western content, Western trainings or resources things.
Yeah.
So it'll tell me how to write a good prayer letter for a Western context. Now, if I am a seasoned missionary in Latin America, and I know how to write a good prayer letter in Latin America, I could tell it, hey, I'm wanting to teach missionary candidates how to write a good prayer letter. Here is what that entails in Latin America. Here's some of the things that I would adjust. Help me organize my thoughts that I've given to you in a way that is cohesive. You know, help me put it in the best order. Help me find biblical references that may tie to these principles if they're relevant, right? Help me think of a story or an overarching theme or example that will help me keep people engaged in the process. Or, you know, and so on. And so it can help me through some of that stuff. Then I can give it even a finished product and say, I'm pretty happy with this. What would a critic to me and my work say this is, right, this is not doing well or it's missing? Or what would somebody find confusing here still? You know, or I could take the same content and say, okay, this is great and this is accurate, but it feels technical. Put it in a way that's a little bit more pastoral in its tone, or put it in a way that an 8-year-old will understand, and it would change the language to help me adjust to that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do you see that as a different conversation? So there's few pretty well-known pastors in North America that are criticizing the use of AI in like sermon prep or prayer, even like writing a prayer for a congregational devotion or something like that. They've been pretty critical of that, or at least skeptical, to put it gently. Do you see this in the same category?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you're having AI do the thinking for you, like if you're having AI do the spiritual discipline of sermon prepping for you, and you're not engaging with the Holy Spirit, that's not great, right? Like at that point, we're putting like you're shepherding on autopilot, and that's not what we're talking about. But if you're saying, hey, I am putting forth the effort, but I could use a buddy to come and, you know, back and forth with me, copy, edit, proofread, translate, refine, review. AI is great at doing that side really fast. So you're not taking the process of thinking and handing it off to somebody else. You got to bring the content. You got to review what it puts out. You got to do that.
You actually have to be a skilled minister.
Yes.
Right? In order to use the tool in a helpful way. I want to flip that a little bit.
Sure.
Right? You're not the only one using AI. We have some folks with different agendas. We have different entities out there. Do you see a vulnerability through AI? So we have an accelerator.
Yes.
Right? Somebody's going to let you, a seasoned worker, or you, an organizational leader, do your job better, but you have the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Where do you see vulnerability through AI?
Yeah, and I would say AI can do a lot more than that, but we can move past it into other topics. So vulnerabilities, I see at least 3 examples that come to mind right now. So on that same content creation, to stay first on topic to what we've been talking about, if I can create that, and I will take the time to create something that is not AI slop, because I know what I'm talking about and I'm putting in the effort and cleaning it up and so on, anybody can create that, and it could look on the outside just as good without having the substance.
Sure. Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is for the missions candidate, for the researcher, for the pastor, for the person looking for how do I get equipped for missions, you know, and I'm going to look at what are the things out there on this topic. How do I differentiate from, you know, somebody who's actually done their work, and whether they've done it by hand with experience, or they've collaborated with AI, but they've done a lot of the thinking and reviewing and so on and so forth to bring out quality content.
Yeah.
How they compare that to somebody who just said, hey, give me a slide deck on this topic, and just puts it out there with no experience, no review, no context, that might not be good or relevant information. It just might be non-contextualized consensus from the internet from before, or somewhere in the prompt they went off. So a challenge is going to be misinformation and a lot of noise around everything with AI. But mission sending is going to be part of that.
So as a partner, it's going to make our vetting process slower, or at least more difficult, as we try to understand, is this who I think they are?
Well, if we're talking partnership and like even support racing, or looking for those partners, going back to AI now, you know, it empowers me. Somebody to say I'm an organization, and we just talked in one of the past episodes. I couldn't partner with you if I didn't speak English.
Right.
Now AI empowers me to translate some of my materials, and to a degree keep them accurate, so that we might
find each other.
Right. We might find each other even if we don't have a common language.
Yeah.
And there's help, and there's a lot of things that could come out of that.
But anybody can do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anybody could do that. You will have more opportunities to have to navigate or select people, and you can get flooded with requests, right? I think about like LinkedIn used to be great, and now it's getting flooded with like AI, send job application to like 1,000 different jobs for me.
I'm so over AI, or over LinkedIn.
I mean, what if that could happen where I say AI pitch Reflejo to 1,000 churches?
Yeah.
And you just run with it and let it free. I mean, I technically don't know how that would work. I'm sure it can be done.
I'm glad you're not doing that.
Right.
But it is a vulnerability.
It is a vulnerability where you will have a lot more AI slop to navigate.
Yep.
And I would be trusting an AI algorithm with my brand that could be very harmful in a way, because it's going to create content and sign it as me and put it out there for the public as well.
And AI is going to be a lot faster, or a lot better at accelerating the person pitching than it is at helping the recipient navigate, right? I can't use AI to help me navigate that cluttered field quite the same way that a mobilizer or somebody who's pitching.
Maybe you could, but the question again goes back to should you, right? You could say, hey, AI, here's what we really care about. Here's our statement of faith and commitments and values, and where we see ourselves going in missions as an organization. Here's 20 pitch decks that I just got this past week.
Tell me if this guy's any good.
Like, give me the 3 best ones, delete the rest, right?
Like, oh, man.
There's a lot that could be done for better or for worse with AI out there, even in the context of partnership. But I don't think partnership should be about that. Partnership is never meant to be transactional.
Yeah, it shouldn't. That's not, like, that makes me feel bad.
Right.
Just
that
thinking
being
about
said,
it.
we're already partners. We're friends. It would be cool to say, AI, here is what Grace is and what they do and what they're good about. Here's what Reflejo is and what they do and what they're good about. What are some ways we could partner that we haven't thought of yet?
Yeah, help us dial it in.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's an idea.
Yeah.
So there's things around content creation that could be bad.
So just the flooding misinformation, I think that's the obvious. Like, this is where things could go wrong.
But also now there's a lot of access to our information to people around the world. I'll give you an example. At some point, you and the listener, you should do this. If you're sending people to the unreached, tell AI, hey, I am a Muslim in, and pick your favorite restricted country, right?
Right.
And say, I think my neighbors are missionaries. What are some signs that they could be missionaries?
Yep.
And what should I look out for?
Yep.
And have AI take security training from the mission side in Latin America, in the States, and so on, and reverse engineer. Here is what it would look like. Let me tell you exactly how to identify what they could do, or look into their communications, or so on and so forth.
Yep.
It is scary accurate what that is.
Because we have a playbook on, like, it's on Amazon everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so on the flip side, yes, now it can be used for gospel advancement. It can be used for people that are wanting to push back against the gospel as well. And the more extreme case of that would be things about deepfakes. I mean, one of the things that we're concerned about is deepfakes, in the sense that anybody could take your livelihood now on video and use AI to make you do just about anything.
Yep.
So if somebody says, well, my neighbor, I think they might be a missionary. I think they just are pushing an agenda I don't care about. In a country that's very restrictive about things like gender roles, I could have AI produce a video of them or their wife or somebody doing something that's culturally taboo, and get them deported or kicked out, or at least in trouble.
And it doesn't even have to be like religiously motivated. It really could just be you offended your neighbor, or they just don't like you.
And so now, authorities are going to have to navigate some of those things.
Right.
And there's a question to where, okay, U.S. has probably a process of vetting, identifying reliable information and what's AI slop and so on. Do all countries where the unreached live have that process? Will they pause long enough to look at that video and say, you know what, this might be fake?
With a critical eye. Yeah.
And so there's challenges there as well.
And beyond that, even if it's not content creation, even if it's real content, like your actual likeness and voice and face are accessible to every government in the world now, right? You can't go through an airport without being
getting your face scanned,
right? Exactly. And so now all of you is available, even if it's real. And there's the security of the physical security of your travel patterns and spending habits and conversations are at risk of being combed through. We used to be just a needle in a haystack and kind of rely on that. That was a legitimate security measure. It was like, you know what, we'll just blend into the background.
Yeah. And so, I mean, one of the things that is different there, since you brought up AI, is, yes, we used to say, as long as you don't raise anybody's flag, if you don't give anybody a reason to suspect you,
they don't have the manpower to dig in
to look at all the data.
Little piece.
Well, AI, that's going to change if it hasn't already.
Yeah. So there are, I think when we start recruiting and mobilizing and really preparing people to live in that kind of a context or engage in that kind of a context, those are realities that haven't been a part of the playbook. Right? That's not a traditional security conversation, or educating somebody on those threats hasn't been a part of line items. Like there wasn't a line item on digital security, back 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it has to be now. It has to be actually quite robust. So, not to get too deep into funding, but that's a line item that I think people are going to have to be more and more comfortable with, and a service that people are going to have to be more serious about providing for field workers that are already on mission, right? That have already been sent. That's a retrofit. You're going to have to get them up to speed because they live in a context of constant surveillance. And in global setting, there's obviously a mismatch of how much we know, how much is developed in that topic already compared to even the West. It's still starting here in some ways, but it's even more immature, at least in Latin America, where we send from. But the other component is now with that digital footprint, it's not just you learn before you go in the field, it's you got to retroactively have good, clean behavior. What's your hygiene been up until now?
Yeah,
and it'll look different from a North American that's being sent out in partnership with a multicultural team, right? That's an asymmetrical access. And then even more so, somebody coming from an unreached people group someplace like China, right? Or Singapore, someplace where you're a little bit closer to, or Pakistan, right? Any place where you're a little bit closer to a surveillance state. You're going to have a different relationship with your digital content than somebody coming out of a Latin American context. So these are conversations that are, if they're not already being documented and being had and systematized, I think they're going to have to. Right. Organizations and individuals are going to have to come to grips with where are my vulnerabilities, and so I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, but I mean that is how missions goes, right? It goes from hardship to complexity. And we're talking about this the other day. few hundred years ago, the main things you were worried about were like malaria and TB, maybe.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And then you went into complexity and medical stuff,
which is hard. That's a really hard conversation. Are my kids going to die this week?
Right. And things medically have gotten better since then, obviously. But they've gotten more complex. Now you need a passport and visas.
Yeah.
And
a vaccine card.
Right. And then people can start validating, your credentials back home, and they can see your, history and kind of follow you. And now there's more of a digital footprint. Then we had to get into, we learned about memory care and then physical security, and now digital security. And things in missions are going to keep moving from being physically hard to being technically complex more and more as the world follows that direction.
Yeah. And that's not to say that either is more difficult or more challenging. It's just how do we show dependency and faithfulness in those complex and hard scenarios. I think there are some serious advantages to leaning into the AI. You mentioned language, so leaning into the AI conversation, saying like, how can we not be intimidated by that? Right? I'll say it's intimidating. I'm in over my snorkel most of the time. I don't know how fast it feels like. As soon as I read an article, it's outdated. I read they wrote the article this morning, and by tomorrow it's history. We've already surpassed it. So just keeping up with that, but there are some real advantages to staying in the conversation. I think language is one of them. I was looking at somebody's experience with a multinational conference, and it wasn't Call Me Bomb, but it was another multinational conference, and they were having real-time translation of lots and lots of different cultures through AI. AI was helping that conversation move forward, and that would have been impossible even a few years ago. So I think having that as a resource, do you see that as a pure advantage? I almost see that as like a win, like a slam dunk win. Like having that kind of access to a language how is that a bad thing?
Okay. So I'll play the role of the skeptic here. There's definitely accelerators within that. And they're very obvious, so I won't go over. You can just go into language so much faster, or go into it for a short time and come out, right? Like there was a case in this conference. Some challenges that I see. One is the process of language learning for a missionary as they get into the field does a few things beyond just learning the language. Language and culture they go hand in hand. So as you're learning language, you're learning culture. There's words that don't exist in your language that will exist in theirs, and words that will exist in their language that exist in yours. And that shares what you value, what you focus on, what you pay attention to, and bring new concepts. There's turns of phrase, sayings, things that always fall short of translation or transliteration because they have a certain nuance or connect to history or an example or something. When you bypass that, you bypass not just learning the language, learning the culture. And so if a missionary is getting out there and bypassing learning the culture, they're not going to be as well equipped to engage people with the gospel presentation, even if the language technically is understandable. More so, you probably read something at some point in English that was translated from some language poorly, and you thought, okay, this doesn't connect with me.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the challenges we have is to start sharing a gospel for people where they listen to it and say, this doesn't connect with me. It must not be for me. And that's dangerous. Right. The other process for a candidate when it comes to learning language, and it's similar to support racing before they go to the field, it is a hard thing you do for a long time. It creates resilience and grit, and it builds your character up, and God helps you through the hardship of going through it, right? In the discipline of going through it.
Yeah.
So,
but life's hard, right? You can build resiliency without having to make it harder, can't you?
Yes. But it is a natural rite of passage built into the process, right? Where a missionary that's running into other things that are hard, if they put in the language learning under their belt, they might say, I've been through enough to quit. Or like, I've been through too much to quit right now. I got this language, I got this thing, I'm committed to this area. Whereas a missionary that's just doing the life things may say, you know what? I just turn on the headphones and I know this language. And if it gets hard here, I'll just move somewhere else because I know the language too.
Okay.
It disconnects you from commitment to a specific culture or UPG or context as well.
It shortens the investment. Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that's overcome? Like, could they? I'm trying to think of like, how can we don't make it as hard as it has to be.
Yeah.
Could somebody with a deep commitment to that context, that people group, that place, that people in place.
Sure.
Could they use the AI assist to get them over the hump of like the transition? Like you land, you've got this window, you have a crutch or a runway or an on-ramp, but you have to demonstrate a commitment, right? You have to be in language learning. You can't rely on this forever. Is that a compromise? Is that something you've seen work?
Could it work theoretically? Probably, but it takes us back to it's more nuanced than it was before.
Yeah.
How do we know, right?
Yeah, it's more complex.
Now, organizational leaders now have to have this nuance of, is it 3 months? Is it 4.5? Is it,
Right.
And so you start asking those questions. I'll give you one other one that makes my head spin. I didn't know what your stance across the board might be on short-term teams. Okay. Now, some people are like really excited about short-term teams. You can't go wrong. Others are like, there's never room for that in the kingdom of God.
Right.
I'm somewhere in between. Sometimes they're helpful. Sometimes they're harmful.
Short term of like 4 years?
Short term of like 4 weeks or a week or 10 days or something like that, right?
Okay.
Or people go for a short time.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes a lot of those people that go for a short, really short time make cultural mistakes. Some of those cultural mistakes can get people into trouble.
Yeah.
Now, how many times has the gospel or has God protected them from getting into too much trouble because people didn't understand what they were saying?
Right.
Now you're empowering them with a local language. Go, roam free, kid. Go to the streets.
Bigger mistakes faster.
Right. Go to the streets of Saudi Arabia, young man, and start hugging women and speaking to them in their language. Let's see how that works out for you. That could be a mess. Yeah. That's an accelerator, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it does bring us a step closer to microwaving missions in some spaces.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it with AI is about the intent, right?
Yep.
How do we think about it? How intentional are we with it? Are we trying to shortcut things that are going to be hard because they're hard, they're worth doing? Or are we trying to use them to elevate our capacity as we do hard things?
Yeah. Yeah, I think my tendency, I'm risk averse generally. And so my tendency is to look at like, oh man, this is crazy. It lets us do stupid things faster. Maybe we don't do that.
But the opposite is true as well.
Right.
Let's say we take that posture as Reflejo and say, we're not going to touch AI because it is too risky for content creation.
Yeah.
But if everybody else does around us and they don't do it responsibly, we're
still in the same boat.
We're still in the same boat. We've not been participated in something that could be helpful to the broader community. Yeah. And we're becoming relevant in some way or another as well.
Yeah. So as we're engaging in, these aren't conversations that we typically have, right? This isn't where we live as partners and as senders, as organizational leaders. But I think if we're not talking about it, if I lean into my fear and insecurity and say like, I'm just going to let somebody else figure it out, right? I'm not being faithful to the leadership role that God's called me into, because we have the Holy Spirit and he's put us at this particular time. So I might wish we were someplace a little more, maybe less complex, more hard.
Yeah, we could be talking about Clippy.
Right? But we're here today.
Yeah.
And so he will equip us and you to engage in these kinds of topics with courage and with faith. It's part of the world.
Yeah.
And God is using it. Currently, he's using it to bring the gospel to least reached places from everywhere. And I think we would be unwise and poor stewards if we weren't at least having a faithful conversation about it.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that intentionality of talking about it, of discussing it, of seeing, of keeping at least one eye on where it's going is relevant. And going back to global sending and partnership, right? I think an intentional conversation on what our partners think about these topics can be relevant as well. I just worked with somebody else on co-writing a book, and we'll bring more about that in future episodes. But one of the discussions we had to have as we're putting this book together is, what is the role of AI in the writing process? Right. Are we gonna go into Grammarly and have it clean up?
Are you going to cite ChatGPT in your
am I going to have it brainstorm with
bibliography?
me? Like what are we going to do? And I think in partnership, anytime two individuals, two organizations, two ministries are coming together to partner, these are going to be questions that are raised. So it is helpful to have a posture on them.
Yeah. And to leverage where it is a win and an accelerator, where we know we need some help, right? Not being afraid and leaning into the nuance. It is complex. God's put us in a complex time and with a complex task. And so not being afraid of that. So I would invite our listeners, if you guys know more than we do, drop a comment. Yeah, let us know. We'd love to chat. We'd love to connect. And if these conversations are a blessing and they're helping you think through your ministry and even the role that accelerators like AI have in your ministry, go ahead and like, subscribe, share it with your network. We'd love to have a farther conversation with more of more nuance in the future of missions. But we look forward to having you guys on the conversation about finance. We're going to get back into that pretty soon. So until next time, see y'all.